Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Ronette, and I really wanted to share what I just read in the Bible, 1 John chapter 4. I was just highlighting pretty much every other few sentences in the passage, and something strongly was calling me to pick up my phone and record and share with you all what I highlighted and what God is telling us from this passage. And it is Test the Spirits, chapter 4. It is about testing the spirits and all about God being love, and also just thinking about the world that we live in today, and that when people say, you know, love is love or God is love, some of us are using that in a wrong context and not what God intended it to be. And that is where our confusion and why so many of us are lost in today's world. And, you know, why we do have all of this gender dysphoria. And I will say that because every time I go on social media, and I like to view shorts, because some of the shorts on YouTube here are very uplifting and I can learn something sometimes. And I'm a foodie, so there are a lot of foodie shorts on YouTube, but then there are also shorts on gender dysphoria. I think I'm saying that right, gender dysphoria. I don't know if that's actually called that. But, you know, what I'm talking about is people in the LGBTQ community, and they obviously view themselves as outcast in some way. Some of them, I'm not speaking on everybody in that community, but there's just been so much added to that, the LGBTQ. I have no hate towards anybody who identifies with whoever that they identify with. I may not agree with you, but I do not hate you. Though you may not have the same beliefs as me or the same faith as me, I still love you. And yeah, so I just wanted to say that I don't agree with it, but I still love you, and I still have hope and faith that, you know, people will in the end make the right choice and see Jesus for who he is, and come to Jesus and come to the truth and have everlasting life and love and healing. Yeah, so that is still my biggest hope for humanity, and that is just what I believe in and what I have hope in, and what I know what God can do. Because, you know, Jesus, we have Jesus, and he who is in us is greater than who is in the world. And that comes from 1 John chapter 4. So let me just read off all the stuff that I've highlighted first and foremost. And then if I want to come in and say something, I will. So right off the bat, the first verse: Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. For many false prophets have gone out into the world. This is also from the ESV translation. So if you're wondering, this is the ESV translation. So, testing the spirits to see whether they are from God. I don't necessarily think it's testing every single person that you come across, but especially testing the spirits of people who proclaim that they have the answers to life, right? Proclaim that they either have the answers from God, or their faith or their way that is so clearly not from God is the right way. I think that verse comes from testing those spirits, right? Because there are many prophets in today's world. And when I say prophet, I mean people who use, and I'll mention social media again, because social media is such a big platform right now that so many people are using to speak out about what they believe in, whether that be religious, whether that be personal choices, you know, that you make or whatever. Like, so many people are speaking out on so many different things. And so many people want to speak out on something that they want others to agree with and want others to see their truth in. And as a believer of God, as a believer of Jesus, we must test those spirits. Does it align biblically with what God says in his word? Does it align with Jesus? We have to ask these questions whenever we see someone talking on the internet about whatever it may be, because we can be so easily influenced. It's anybody, whether you are a believer or a not believer, we can be so easily influenced by what we see on our phones every day, and we have to be careful because we can get sucked in very easily, and then we forget about what our Creator has created us to be originally and what we are called for to do in this world originally, and then that's how we get lost all over again. So I just thought that that was really important. And then the next verse, in verse 2, Jesus Christ has come in the flesh. Oh, I'm sorry. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is from God. And every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. So that is pretty much self-explanatory. If you believe that Jesus Christ was here in the flesh and he was God in the flesh in this world, then you are God's child, because you wholeheartedly believe that, and you believe that from your heart, you believe that from your spirit, and quite clearly it states, if you do not confess Jesus from God, you do not believe that Jesus is from God, then you are not from God. And we know that whoever is not from God, when the end times do come, when Jesus does come back, you know, it is too late now. And, you know, God has every account of what we did. God is the creator of everything. He knows everything that we've done and said. He knows every little hair in our head. He's known us from the womb. My light just died. Okay, I'm trying to use a light because then it's gonna be super dark. Well, it's gonna be dark. Sorry, you guys. I just really wanted to film this little kind of quickly. Sorry for the off lighting now, but honestly, it doesn't really matter what you see right now. It's really what you're hearing. And, you know, testing me, right? Testing me in the spirit to see what I'm saying is biblically sound, right? And I am reading legitimately from the Bible. So, and I just felt it really strongly in my heart to just talk about it on this platform here with you guys on YouTube. So the next verse, verse 4 in 1 John chapter 4, little children, you are from God and have overcome them, for he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. I mentioned that verse earlier. For he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. So we have nothing to really worry or fear about. That is what I take from this verse. While we are in the world can be a very scary place. And we see so many horrible things happening in the world every single day, maybe even around us. But when we have Jesus in our lives, when we believe in Jesus, he is in us. His spirit lives in us. His blood is a part of us. We are a part of him. And it is so special and so great. And that is why when believers talk about being in the Spirit, it is the Spirit of Jesus, because the Spirit of Jesus never died. So the Spirit of Jesus lives, and it is definitely alive here, well, right now, in this moment. The Spirit of Jesus is alive, and it is always good, and it is always right, and it is always just, and so much more that the Spirit encompasses. As a sinner, who am I to deserve the goodness of the Spirit of Jesus, the one who came on this earth, who had no sin in him, and who just loved everybody and wanted everyone to be saved, and wants everyone to have eternal life with their Creator again. That is just something that I will never understand that I deserve in this life. You know, I don't deserve that, but yet he gives it so freely, because of his love for his children. That is big. That is agape love, right? We talk about agape love. Agape is just God's love, God's unconditional love, something that we cannot grasp or understand. And now the next verse, 1 John chapter 4, verse 6, we are from God. Whoever knows God listens to us. Whoever is not from God does not listen to us. By this we know the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. So I really like this verse, because what I'm doing now is I have a YouTube, and it is faith-based. You know, I don't know really who watches all of my videos. I know for the most part, some of my family and some of my distant friends might watch my videos sometimes, you know, but I'm sure there are random people who come across my videos, and if you believe or if you do not believe, you come across a video and you might want to finish the video, or you might want to be like, this is just not my thing, and I don't really agree with what she's saying, so I'm just gonna leave. But I just really feel like in both parts of that, if you don't believe and you stay and you watch even a few minutes of my video, I just want to believe in my heart that God is making a way and is planting seeds out there in unbelievers' hearts, because he did that for me. And because I was once I was once someone who was very ignorant to God and very ignorant to the Bible and what it had to say and what it actually means for my soul. And yeah, I was you know, I was very hesitant, and I was very scared to believe in God. You know, I thought I would have to sacrifice a lot, you know, just being selfish. And I talk about that in my testimony video that I filmed a few months ago, about just feeling very selfish. And that is the reason why I wasn't close with God, because of my selfishness and my ignorance and my own fears, right? That kept me from believing in the truth of God. So yeah, so that the verse is saying whoever is not from God does not listen to us. So yeah, at some point in my life, you know, I chose to not be with God because I chose not to listen. But I think when we actually listen, not only with our ears, but with our hearts, with an open mind, I think that allows God to do what he does. And he just does miracles. He really does. Little and big, right? Any miracle from God is big, in my opinion. But yeah, and you know that it's from God. You will know. It's not like this big secret or anything. Like, you just know. So anyway, next verse. Beloved, this is verse 7. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God. And whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. So this is a verse I kind of wanted to touch on. Let us love one another, for love is from God. And I think people, like I was touching on earlier, people take that one for granted because, or people take that out of context because in this world that we live in today, the phrase love is love, right? And or God is love, and a lot of people use that as in like the universe is love, right? Love is love. Like, if God says in the Bible to love everybody, and yes, that is true, we are called as God's children to love everybody, but that doesn't mean that we love everything that everyone does, right? We are called to stand up for what is the truth, and God clearly states in the Bible what is sin and what is not sin. So when we want to put a label on love is love on, I'm just going to use the LGBTQ as an example because it is so blatantly out in this world and it is so blatantly in our faces. I'm going to use that as an example because when we put that in that context with God is love, and God tells us to love everybody no matter who they are, yes, that is true, but we're not meant to agree with everybody and their lifestyles, because a lot of people's lifestyles are of the world, and who is of the world is not of heaven and is not of God. So therefore, people are choosing sin in this life. People are just choosing sin, whether they know it or they don't know it. But people are choosing sin in this world every single day. And, I can still choose to love someone who sins because I am also a sinner. But because I come from God, I know the truth. And I know right from wrong, right? I'm not perfect, but I know right from wrong. And I know God's truth and what he says. And what he says is higher, is up higher than what the world has to say and what the world has to give. So I take that very highly in my heart. So your lifestyle I may not agree with, but if I have to work with you, if I have to be in a room with you, if I am just meeting you for the first time and I know things about you that I may not agree with, I'm not gonna just hate you, right? But, right, I want to show you the same amount of love and respect that you are showing me, right? So that all is, yes. And even so, as a Christian, I am supposed to love my enemies. And I will still be honest with you, that is still the hardest thing that I am still learning and grasping in this life. And that is just me being real and honest. But I am called even to love my enemies as Jesus did, as he was killed on that cross, and he still loved the people who were killing him on that cross. And that is something that is just so hard for me to understand and do, but it's not that it's not impossible. With God, nothing is impossible. So moving on. Moving on to verse 9, that God sent his only son into the world so that we might live through him. In this is love, and not that we have loved God, but that he loved us and sent his son to be the propitiation for our sins. I think I'm saying that word right. That is self-explanatory there in that verse. God sent his son Jesus as God in the flesh to atone. Let's use that word because it's kind of like the same meaning. Atone for our sins. You know, he sacrificed his son. He could have sacrificed any one of us, because any one of us are not deserving of God's love, of Jesus and what he did for us on that. We are not deserving of that. But God so loved us so much that he would sacrifice his own. So just kind of let that one sink in, right? That's big in itself. The next verse, verse 12, no one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God abides in us and his love is perfected in us. We don't have to see God to know that he is real, to know that his love is real. When we have faith, when we believe, his love is already in us. His love is already in us. His love grows within us as we grow in God. And that is beautiful. That is just beautiful. And the next verse, verse 16, God is love, and whoever abides in love abides in God, and God abides in him. And when I hear God is love, I also hear God is truth, right? Because where there is love, there is truth. Where there is God's love, let me rephrase that. Where there is God's love, there is truth and there is no lie. So whoever abides in God's love abides in him, and abides in his goodness, and his love will be perfected in us, as it says here in his word. And then verse 18, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, for fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not been perfected in love. Verse 19, we love because he first loved us. So there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. That is something that I need to remind myself a lot. A lot. Who's someone who deals with anxieties and depression at times, just thinking about that I have Jesus's love at my disposal. When I wholeheartedly believe, when I wholeheartedly have my faith in him, his love is perfected in me. So therefore fear is casted out. You know, fear does not exist here because God's love is greater. And that is something that I need to constantly be reminding of myself, because sometimes I forget. And sometimes I am sucked into the world, right? As we can be. And that is something that is super, super, super important to know and to note, that God's perfect love casts out fear. And fear has to do with punishment. And where there is fear, right, then that means his love is not perfected in us anymore, right? So that is something we need a constant reminder of. I don't know about y'all, but I do. It's like I know it deep down. I do know it. But the world lies. The world will lie to us over and over again. And the enemy will lie to us over and over again. And sometimes the enemy's lies can seem louder than God's love. And we need to remember that God's love is first and foremost so good and so perfect and so great that it will overcome any evils that we may face. So that is what I believe. And then the last verse, verse 21 that I highlighted. And this commandment we have from him, whoever loves God must also love his brother. So that was basically what I was touching on before, right? Not hating people, but loving people. I don't have to agree with you, but I also don't need to hate you, because what does that do for me if I hate you? That just grows a bitterness in me. And, you know, I'm not perfect in that as well. But that is something that I would love to deeply know in my heart, that loving everybody is very important. Even if I am not loved, or even if I am judged for what I believe in, I'm still called to love you. And yeah, so that is what I wanted to share with you guys. I just really wanted to record and talk about that. And I will pray on sharing this or making it into shorts to share with you guys. Because I just thought that this chapter was very powerful in 1 John chapter 4. And as always, I just pray that we all are in the word and we're all in prayer, and may God's spirit grow in us every single day, and may we abide in God's love every single day. God bless you guys. Take care.